Hello, everybody. It's your boy Damon DaRil Nailer. This is DaRil. We thank you for tuning in, and we have a mighty show in store for you today. What we're going to look at is the creation of the two spiritual kingdoms. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I've always wondered, how did things get to be like they are? And when we look at kingdoms, every kingdom has a king or a ruler that presides over it. So we have two kingdoms, the kingdom of righteousness and light, which God or Jesus presides over. And then we have the kingdom of unrighteousness and darkness, which Satan, he presides over. So how did this come to be? And what we're going to look at in the next two sessions is what happened? How did we get here? What was the process? And what we're studying today, first of all, is the fall of Satan. And we're going to start in our Canon text and look at a couple of scriptures. And then we're going to go to some apocryphal books or lost books, as some people call it, to kind of further confirm what happened. How did Satan fall? What was that process? So in our Bible, Ezekiel 28, verses 12 through 18, it says, Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus said the Lord God, Thou sealest up the sum, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. I want you to remember those things. Full of wisdom, perfect in beauty. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering. Okay, so full of wisdom, perfect in beauty. Every stone was your covering. The sardius, topaz, the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, the carbuncle, and gold. All of these things covered Satan or Lucifer. The workmanship of your tabrets. He had tambourines and of pipes. Pipes are musical instruments with openings, just like we have our saxophones or the woodwinds and the brass instruments. He literally had instruments and tambourines on him, all kind of instruments, okay? Was prepared indeed in the day that you were created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covered, and I have set thee so. Thou was upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in your ways from the day that you were created, till iniquity was found in you by the multitude of your merchandise. In other words, those things we just named. The fact that he was full of wisdom, perfect in beauty, every precious stone covered him. He had tabrets, he had the musical instruments, he was the anointed cherub, he was perfect. Because of all of this merchandise, the multitude of all of these goods and these gifts and talents and these good characteristics he had, they filled him with, in the midst of him, with violence. And he has sinned. Therefore, I will cast thee out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub from the midst of the stones of fire. So God is letting them know here, because you done got just full of yourself, because you're so talented, you're so beautiful, you have all these great characteristics, I'm going to have to kick you out of my mountain. And then he says in verse 17, thy heart was lifted up, verse 17, thy heart was lifted up because of your beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of your brightness. I will cast you to the ground. I will lay you before the kings, that they may behold you. Thou hast defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of your iniquities, and by thy iniquity of thy traffic. So what is trafficking? Is making deals. Like today, we have drug trafficking, we have human trafficking, but what Satan does, he makes deals. In other words, he gives exchange for people's souls. He'll give you riches. Remember what Jesus said, if you bow down and worship me, he showed them all the kings of the world, first of all. And then he said, if you bow down and worship me, I give them to you, because I've been given power, and to whom I can, or to whom I will, I give the power. So in other words, he makes these bad deals with people in exchange for their souls. That's why Jesus said, what profits a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Because Satan is the God of this world. He can give you the world. He can give you the riches. He can give you the fame and fortune, but it's an exchange for your soul. So by the iniquity of his trafficking and making these bad deals, therefore will I bring forth a fire from the midst. All right. Good deal. So now we're going to go to Isaiah and look at the fall there. All right. So said, I'm sorry, to end that verse, he's going to bring forth a fire from the midst of thee, and it shall devour thee, and I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all them that behold thee. So God is going to expose him and burn him up. Okay. And we see that in Revelation, he was cast into the lake of fire, him and the false prophet. Okay. Isaiah 14, verses 12 through 17. How art thou fallen from heaven? Where did he fall from? Heaven. O Lucifer, son of the morning, how art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken a nation? So remember, he got full of himself. And now we're going to see what happened when he got full of himself. It wasn't just that he got full of himself. That pride began to manifest. And now we're going to see what happened. For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the thrones of God, the stars of God, or the other angels. I will sit upon a mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Then God says, yet you shall be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. So remember, this is how he fell from heaven. He got lifted up with all the merchandise, with all his talents, with all his characteristics. And now he says, in other words, I want to be like God. I want to be higher than God. I want to be better than God. And they that see thee shall narrowly look upon you and consider you, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble and did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness, a desolate, and destroyed the cities thereof, and opened not of the house of his prisoners? See, Satan put people in prison. Because Satan, hell has prisons, okay? Talks about it in, should be Peter, where Jesus went to hell and preached to the prisoners. So this is what caused them to be kicked out, his pride. And whenever a person has pride, they're always lifting themselves up. They want to be the top dog. They want to be the best. And anybody they feel is in competition with them, they're going to fight against them. And that's exactly what Satan did, but he did not prevail. Now we're going to go to Revelation chapter 12 to further see this fall. 12 verses 3 and 4. And there appeared another wonder in heaven. Okay. Behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. This is Satan. And his tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven. He literally drew 200 angels, or watchers as they're called. And we're going to look at them in depth in the next few studies. And did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. So the woman is Israel, the child is Jesus. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And a great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. All right, so remember that the war was in heaven. Remember, Satan was in heaven, but then he and his angels were cast to the earth. So now we're going to go into the Apocryphal books. The first one is the book of Enoch. We're going to look at chapter 29, verses 3 and 4. This is God speaking. So remember this. And one from out the order of angels, having turned away with the order that was under him. So Satan was a leader, and he had some angels under him, conceived an impossible thought. Now, this goes back to what we just read about him, wanting to ascend and be like the Most High, to place his throne higher than the clouds above the earth, that he might become equal in rank to my power, just like it told us in Isaiah. And I threw him out from the height with his angels, and he was flying in the air continuously above the bottomless, or the bottomless pit, which is where hell is located. Now we're going to go to the first book of Adam and Eve, chapter 47, verses 7 and 8. Now this is going to be the devil speaking. But Satan, the head of all good, thought within himself, whereas God has promised salvation to Adam by covenant, and that he would deliver him out of all the hardships that have befallen him, but has not promised me by covenant, and will not deliver me out of my hardships. Nay, since he had promised him that he should make him and his seed dwell in the kingdom in which I once was, I will kill Adam. The earth shall be rid of him, and he shall be left to me alone. It shall be left to me alone, so that when he is dead, he may not have any seed left to inherit the kingdom that shall remain my own realm. God will then be in one of me, and he will restore me to it with my host. So what happened, once the devil was kicked out of heaven, man wasn't created yet, right? So all of a sudden, man's created. The devil deceives him, manipulates him, deceives Adam and Eve. They fall into sin. But what happened, first of all, God, the devil didn't know that God was going to create the Adam. So he thought once he got kicked out, he was going to inherit this realm, he and his host, and he would be fine, right? Well, God had another plan, which was create Adam, which is called the terrestrial angel, to rule in the earth realm. That's what God did. And so all of a sudden, like I said, Satan deceived him, and he thought after the deception, okay, that's going to be done because God said, in the day you eat it, you're going to die. He thought he was going to literally die, but he didn't. Not only did he not die, God had a plan B, C, D, and so on for humanity that he didn't destroy him off the face of the earth. So Satan is like, okay, let me think of this. If I kill Adam and all his seed, then all of a sudden God is going to need me to rule the earth realm because he won't have anybody. But God did not permit that to happen. All right. So now we're going to go to our last scriptures, the first book of Adam and Eve, chapter 55, verses 8 through 13. This is one of the angels in heaven, one of the heavenly angels who maintain his estate, speaking of what happened with Satan. But now, O Adam, he's talking to Adam, we will make known to thee what came upon us through him, talking about Satan, before his fall from heaven. He gathered together his host and deceived them, promising them to give them a great kingdom, a divine nature, and other promises he made them, just like he still promises people today. He's going to give you the kingdom. He's going to give you these riches and all kinds of stuff. His host believed that his word was true. So they yielded to him and they renounced the glory of God. So he was able to influence them and get them to believe that, man, hey, I got a kingdom I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you a divine nature. I'm going to give you all kinds of stuff, just like he always does. He then sent for us, so the rest of the angels, according to the orders in which we were to come under his command and to hearken to his vain promise. But we would not and took not his advice. Then after he had fought with God and had dealt fraudulently with him, he gathered together his hosts and made war with us. And if it had not been for God's strength that was with us, we could not have prevailed against him to hurl him from heaven. But when he fell from among us, there was great joy in heaven because of his kingdom, because of his going down from us. For had he continued in heaven, nothing, not even one angel, would have remained in it. And we know in the gospel, Jesus said, I beheld Satan fall from heaven as lightning. So God kicked him out, and not just him, but his angels, because he was able to convince them and believe that he was going to give them a kingdom. Now, the irony of it is through that, he actually did get them a kingdom by deceiving Adam. Remember, Adam, once Adam sinned, the divine order was God, the angels, man, and then the fallen angels. Once Adam sinned, the divine order changed. So now you have God, the heavenly angels, the devils, and then mankind, because we're under the power of sin and darkness. And so this becomes the devil's world. He rules in the kingdom. He's the God of this world. And that's how it all took place. And that's how part of the kingdom was formed. So we're going to go in depth next week and look at the fallen angels, how they got with the women, the unclean spirits, and we're going to get a full understanding of how this kingdom stuff works and how it's organized and ordained, so that we can know exactly what we're fighting with. Most people don't even realize that there's a spirit realm, that there's a devil, that this thing is organized, it's structured, and it is real. But as we see through our scriptures in the Canon Bible, as well as the other scriptures that I read from the Apocryphal books, this is what happened with Satan. He got all filled up with pride because of all his beauty, his wisdom, his characteristics, his goal, his instruments, and he wanted to be better than God and higher than God. But God couldn't allow that to happen. He had to kick him out of heaven to the earth. And that's why there's contention between us and the devil and darkness, because it's a fight over this realm. And we know who prevails in the end, which is God's people. Amen. So we truly thank you for tuning in. We're going to be going higher and higher. After we establish this, we're going to really get into seeing the intersectionality between spirituality, mentality, and physicality, how all of this comes together and affects us in our daily lives. So stay tuned. As always, the information is below. if you want to, be a part of our upcoming webinar, we invite you, tell other people, want to sow a seed and be blessed, do that as well. So we thank you.